Good morning, everybody. So nice to see you all. I am Debbie Cox-Bultan, CEO of the New Deal, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 14th annual, can you believe it, New Deal Leaders Conference. We had such a great night last night. It was so fun to celebrate the successes, to hear from Governor-elect Matt Meyer in Delaware, New Deal leader, to talk about being inspired by his inspiration and inspired by the work that he's excited to keep doing. And I said when I spoke last night that we were going to spend last night just reconnecting, talking to each other, being together in community, and then today we were going to turn to the hard work of talking a little bit about what happened in the election and where we go from here. So that's what we're going to do. And I know that we are gathering here in a time that we all hoped would not happen, that in fact we all worked very hard not to happen. So I'm sure, like me, many of you are still reeling and still wondering what this means for you and your constituents, and we have a lot of work to do. I'll be honest, for me on election night, I actually had a moment where I didn't know if I could keep doing this. I said, I'm not sure I can stay in politics. I had to talk to our staff in the morning, a lot of young folks, people who were understandably just kind of stunned about what happened and have to explain to them what happened. And it was hard. I couldn't get through that conversation without crying. But the next day, like many of you, I woke up, I dusted myself off, and I said, I looked inside for that kernel of resilience, and I found it. And it's been growing ever since. And what I want to tell you, in all honesty, is that my kernel of resilience is fueled by all of you. It really is. I'm so inspired and I'm so motivated by the fact that you get up every day, the New Deal leaders and other elected officials in this room, and you fight for your constituents. You put them first. You say, no matter what is happening, I'm going to keep doing this. And the courage that you show just to raise your hand and run for office shows such a compassion for this country and for your fellow Americans. I just don't want you to lose sight of that as we go through what is undeniably going to be some tough times. I just want to say that we do know that it is going to be, actually before I go there, I do want to also say it's not just the elected officials in the room. We have people here who are not elected officials, and to you being here, the work that you do every day is also a sign that you're not giving up, that we're all in this together and we're just going to keep going. We all do know that the next 4 years are going to be very hard, probably some of the hardest we've ever faced, and your jobs are about to get even harder than they were. There will be people who are hurt. There are funds that are going to be cut. There are programs that are going to be cut. The rule of law and the democratic institutions and government itself is going to be tested like never before. And there's nothing to suggest so far that the new administration has any interest in pulling our country together, appealing to our better natures, and thinking about how to heal our community. So that means that we need you more than ever. The job that you do is more important than ever. We're going to need you, particularly the leaders at the state and local levels, to hold this administration accountable. We're going to need you to stick up and stand up for your vulnerable residents. And importantly, as we're going to talk about today, we need you to lend your voices and, in fact, to lead the effort to rebrand the Democratic Party. Going forward, we have to start with an honest conversation about what happened. There are lots of reasons for our loss. Sure, there was a global movement against parties in power after COVID. Disinformation, the broken media system, this all contributed to what happened. And we had certainly a very unusual 100-day campaign that none of us could have predicted. And the vice president ran a really good campaign. She did everything she could do. But at the end of the day, while the margins were close, voters rejected the Democratic brand in favor of a deeply flawed, deeply unpopular candidate. There's no doubt that President Trump is overstating the mandate that he thinks he has and will undoubtedly overreach for sure. But we still have to live with the fact and come to grips with the fact that we lost ground with voters in nearly every state and in nearly every demographic. This election actually should put to bed the conversation that's been going on a long time about whether demographics are destiny. So moving ahead, I think it's time for us to be really humble. We've got to really listen, and we've got to learn. We need to figure out how to put together a much broader coalition than the people we were talking to by offering a common sense agenda grounded in values that most Americans share on the issues that matter most to them. So at New Deal, we started that effort of listening and learning, where we always do, with all of you. We engaged Sam Youngman, a former journalist, to talk to a number of you about what happened in your states and your communities. We asked you what went wrong, what went right, and where we go from here. So I encourage you all to check out the report. Hopefully maybe you can do that there, in its entirety. But I wanted to just share a few of those highlights with you. So when we asked leaders what went wrong, what we heard was that across the country, voters felt like Democrats were not focused enough on the single most important issue, which was the high cost of living. Immigration, as one interview put it, was an albatross around Democrats' necks. And the way that Democrats too often think about and talk about the electorate in a very well-meaning and well-intentioned way to segment up the population by smaller demographic groups and talk to them about what we're going to do for them, actually in doing so, left too many people feeling like if they didn't hear their name listed, that they were not welcome in our coalition. We're going to have to figure out going forward how we stay true to our value of inclusivity, which is the right value, but do it in a way that doesn't alienate a lot of people. The new ways that people consume information, the proliferation of media, disinformation, that's here to stay. And Democrats are going to have to figure out how to talk differently and how to reach people where they are. When it comes to what went right, there were a lot of bright spots, and a lot of those we talked about last night. So 2 New Dealers won races for governor, making 3 the number of Democratic governors who are New Deal leaders, Matt Meyer in Delaware and Josh Stein in North Carolina. New Deal alum Ruben Gallego and Angelo Alsobrooks won seats in the U.S. Senate, and a number of other, of course, Senate candidates, Democratic Senate candidates, held on to their races and overperformed the top of the ticket. Our friend Tobias Reed won for Secretary of State in Oregon. And 5 New Deal leaders won congressional races, including in really tough swing districts like Kristen McDonald-Rivet in Michigan's 8 and Janelle Bynum in Oregon's 5. And additionally, 100% of New Deal leaders who are running for re-election, 75 of them, won their re-election. So congratulations to all of you. So in the context of where we find ourselves at the top of the ticket, we asked these successful New Deal leaders what they did, what were the lessons we could learn from their wins. They talked about focusing like a laser on common sense ideas, using common language. They talked about being authentic and connecting to their constituents, and building broad, big tent coalitions that welcomed people who did not agree with them on every issue. They said that it was very hard to paint a caricature or have disinformation stick when people know who you are. They say, I hear what they're saying about Democrats, but I know that person. That's not what that person's about. We've got to learn from that and take something away for that nationally. When asked where we go from here, New Deal leaders led with listening. Doing more listening than talking, going everywhere and talking to everyone, being open and respectful to those who disagree with us. And importantly, I think as we go forward in the next 2 and 4 years, telling Democrats what we stand for and not just what we're against. It's going to be very easy to say what we're against in the next 4 years. And I think we need to be thoughtful to that point and strategic about how we take on the Republicans. So again, I hope you'll read the full thoughts of New Deal leaders. I think it's very insightful, and we'll be talking more about this as we go forward in the next 2 days. We're also, as we continue that conversation about politics, we're going to do what we always do, which is to come back, roll up our sleeves, and talk about the work. We're going to talk about how we tackle affordable housing and how we build an inclusive economy that works for everyone. Because at the end of the day, sharing ideas and solving problems, talking about how to make government work better and to deliver results, that's what New Dealers do. That's who we are. So our work continues. In fact, it's more important than ever. I want to thank you for being here. You continue to give me hope. We're so grateful for you. And together, we will do this together. We are going to be okay, and we are going to prevail. So thank you very much for being here this morning.